My name is Charles Michael Yunker. My highest rank in the Navy was Radarman Second Class E5. Later I served in the Kansas National Guard and attained the rank of E6. Well, a lot of our shipmates started coming down with Agent Orange issues. And that's back when the VA would only, if your boots on the ground or brown water Navy, right up the rivers and so forth. And I was trying to find proof to help a lot of our my shipmates. So I went to the National Archives in College Park, Maryland, got a copy of the deck logs, which I could go on and on for about what deck logs are like trying to read, because I figured it out that there's no set standard on deck logs. It's up to whatever the captain decides goes in the deck logs. Captain Brown of the Lloyd Thomas would not allow anything that was classified in the deck logs, whereas jumping back to the Yorktown, I read those deck logs just out of curiosity at the time that we spent off of the north coast of Korea. And the Yorktown observed sunrise and sunset in the proper Navy manner every day. We were landing and launching aircraft left and right, but all the deck logs would ever say is we launched aircraft, recovered aircraft. Never said the number or the types, because we carried 3 types of aircraft on board. And you're wondering, you would think that they would list how many and the types, but they never did. It just, again, it depends on what the captain of that particular ship will allow in the deck logs. Had I known that back in 1970, when I left the Navy in 1971, I would have swiped the CIC deck log, because if you sneezed, it was in the CIC deck log. But those are discarded after 6 months, and they only go by the deck logs that are kept up on the bridge. Because in CIC we had everything that occurred, time, date, and detail, and so forth. But it took me about 2 years to get the Lloyd Thomas, to find proof that the Lloyd Thomas went up that river. Everybody knew it, but it really wasn't listed. So I contacted some of the officers, and through an Air Force friend of mine in Australia, I asked him if he could check with his Australian contacts to find anybody who was on that SAS group. And he did find a gentleman by the name of John Delgado, who's become a very good friend. John was the guy who, the gentleman who headed up that patrol. And that's why I know it was the first of 2 such SAS troops, because he told me that later. And he sent me a copy of that patrol, which was quite interesting. They heard some shots, they saw some tiger tracks, they found a place where some Viet Cong had been camping, or had been. There was some rice left behind that was still warm, but they never made contact with the enemy. The whole reason for their incursion is that our intelligence at the time had indicated there was going to be another Tet offensive, or Tet-type offensive, and that's why the Australians inserted these guys to see if they could find any evidence, and there wasn't, and that didn't occur. But I was able to find the very bottom of one page where we had anchored in this estuary. And well, the truth be known, the VA was really dragging their feet on adding ships to the Brown Water Navy list. And come to find out, through my senator, or I'm sorry, through my congressman, Jerry Moran, who's now Senator Jerry Moran, his veterans guy, it took him about 3 months to find out for me who to contact with the VA to get my ship listed on the Brown Water Navy list and what it took. And it turned out it was one fellow up here in Washington, D.C., who was a U.S. Army corpsman, who told me over the phone that he's learned more about the Navy than he ever knew about the Army. And he was very helpful. He was given a set of guidelines he had to follow. And frankly, they didn't make sense. You would see something like the USS Chicago, which was a cruiser, operated on the Cuvette River. Well, the Cuvette River is, from what I remember, is very shallow, and we were dredging it all the time, only because there was a Marine base up that river, so they were dredging it so they could take supplies up to that Marine Corps group. There's no way the Chicago went in that river, but they used the term operated on the Cuvette River. The Chicago, in reality, because I checked the coordinates, we're about 10 or 15 miles off the coast of that river, firing in. And the VA took the attitude that Agent Orange, that tainted the water and tainted the rivers, the tainted water stopped at the edge of Vietnam and did not enter the ocean. And that's a bunch of hooey. So it was very difficult to get through all of that. I'm kind of jumping around, but it was a very difficult process. But when I did find the proof that the Lloyd Thomas had gone up the Saigon River, had anchored in that estuary, he got us on the list, and he got us on the list. In fact, he sent out information to the VA in Massachusetts and the VA in Kansas and told them to honor 2 claims that are even before it was officially on the list. So kudos to him. He really came to bat for some guys on my ship. And unfortunately, well, I used to feel guilty, you know, why are all of these guys, I've helped well over 20 guys file for their VA compensation. And I used to feel guilty about, you know, why them and not me. Well, mine was just a little later developed. So I've been hit with 2 different Agent Orange issues, but they came on later. But thankfully, through him, he got that on, got us on the list, and that's opened up the doors for a lot of our shipmates. In fact, I was telling my sister coming up here, I was looking at the list of guys who are going to be at this reunion, and exactly half plus me that I know of, because I've helped them file for the VA claims. They've been hit by Agent Orange from that